Wow, it sure is fun making a town.
And it looks so easy, too.
Well, it may look easy when you're doing it on a computer, but it's quite another story in real life, especially if you were trying to make a community hundreds of years ago. So, how did people plan and build towns in those days, Mr. Beanbody? Well, as it happens, I've been thinking about an excellent example of that lately. Jamestown, Virginia. It was the first permanent English settlement in North America. We could use my Go Back app to see how it all came about. Shall we? Gosh, Mr. Beanbody, where the heck are we?
And what year is it anyway?
Well, let's see here. According to this map, we're in London, England. And from the look of things, I'd say it's the early 1600s. At that time, there was a great deal of interest in the lands across the Atlantic Ocean, North and South America.
So, gentlemen, we are all in agreement. Each of us will invest our money to establish a new company.
It will be called, if my notes are correct, the Virginia Company of London, and its purposes will be 1. To find gold and other precious metals. 2. To find a northwest passage to the Pacific Ocean so we can trade more easily with Asian countries. And 3. To convert the natives of North America to Christianity.
Now, let's go to December 1606. When 3 ships, the Susan Constant, the Godspeed, and the Discovery, were loaded with supplies for the journey to North America. 105 passengers and 39 crewmen were squeezed together in the 3 small vessels. From time to time, the cramped quarters and the boredom of ship life resulted in quarrels. During some of those disputes, an Army officer, Captain John Smith, argued with Captain Christopher Newport, the man in charge of the 3-ship fleet. He also clashed with a nobleman, Edward Maria Wingfield. Both Wingfield and Newport looked down on Smith, whom they considered to be a low-born country bumpkin. Captain Smith refused to grovel to those of a higher social rank, however, and, truth be told, he could be quarrelsome. So Captain Newport imprisoned Smith, saying he was planning a mutiny. Finally, after 4 months at sea, on April 26, 1607, the travelers reached their destination, the east coast of today's Virginia. Captain Newport and about 30 men immediately went ashore to look around. However, they weren't alone. 5 natives followed the newcomers as soon as they went ashore. Then they attacked. 2 men were injured. Replying to the assault, Captain Newport fired his musket. But the natives fled only after they had run out of arrows. Later that day, Captain Newport relayed the company's instructions to the voyagers. There was to be a ruling council with 7 members, including himself, Wingfield, and John Smith, who was still imprisoned. Wingfield would be elected council president several weeks later. The instructions also told the group to find a suitable place for their settlement. So, several days later, an exploratory party sailed up the James River. Despite their earlier encounter, the natives they now met were friendly. The explorers had dinner with some Kickotan Indians, whose chiefs and his people were interested in trading with the newcomers. On May 13th, the colonists chose an island in the James River as the place for their settlement. President Wingfield decided that the settlers would not build a large fort there.
This will show that we are coming as friends and expect the natives to be friends as well. And for the same reason, we will leave our guns packed on the ships.
Captain Smith, who had been released from confinement, thought Wingfield's actions were very unwise.
We have been attacked once already. What is to prevent another assault? We know little of these people. Before laying ourselves open to violence, all my experience cautions that we must first secure at least some means of defense.
Your so-called experience is in Europe only, and I dare say has no relevance here.
Gee, who was right, Mr. Beanbody? President Wingfield or Captain Smith?
Well, to find out, let's move forward several weeks. When some of the settlers were upstream exploring on the James River, at one village, they learned about a mighty leader, Powhatan. He was a powerful chief of chiefs who presided over dozens of tribes and hundreds of warriors. Upon their return, the explorers saw that their new settlement had been attacked by natives while they were gone. One person, a boy, had been killed, and about 24 more wounded, one of whom would die later. The settlers immediately began building a large triangular-shaped fort. Then, they brought weapons to it from the ships.
So it was Captain Smith who was right about the dangers?
Yes, that's right, Jeffrey. Captain John Smith had a lot of experience dealing with people from different cultures. He understood that the natives would be very upset at the thought of foreigners taking over their lands, and could very well attack to prevent it from happening.
Then did Captain Smith become a member of the ruling council?
Yes, Lily. Most of the colonists now realize that his knowledge and judgment could be very useful to the settlement. Now let's move ahead a few more weeks. When Captain Newport, along with many of the colony's workmen, returned to England. Newport was to return with fresh supplies in 4 or 5 months. It was now summer, and it turned very hot and humid. Life became miserable for Jamestown residents. Mosquitoes were a constant nuisance. Worse yet, typhoid fever, dysentery, and other serious illnesses became common. Work stopped, no shelters were built, and no food was hunted or gathered. Because of that, daily food rations were reduced to a small can of barley boiled in water. This tiny amount to be shared by 5 men. As summer wore on, more and more colonists died from starvation and disease. In September, President Wingfield was voted out of office because he had secretly hoarded food for himself and his friends. The new president, John Ratcliffe, quickly sent Captain Smith along with some other settlers on a trading mission to exchange copper and hatchets for corn. They were able to get enough food to last several months. Smith led another trading mission in December, one that would become famous. On the journey, he was captured and in time taken to Werowocomoco, the village where Chief Powhatan lived.
Why have your people come here?
We were fighting our enemies, the Spanish, who overpowered us. We were retreating when a storm blew us to nearby shores. We were waiting for our great father, Newport, to take us back to England.
Why did he say they were going back to England, Mr. Beanbody?
Well, Jeffrey, he didn't want the chief to think the English planned to take over native lands.
Then why are you so far from your camp?
We are looking for a sea on the other side of the country. People near there had slain one of Newport's men. The English are a vengeful people and have come to exact justice.
Why did he say that?
Captain Smith wanted to let Chief Powhatan know that if he were put to death, the English would come seeking revenge. But the warning didn't do any good. The leader ordered 2 large stones to be brought forward on which Smith was to be executed. Suddenly, one of Chief Powhatan's young daughters, Pocahontas, ran to Smith and begged her father to spare his life. Chief Powhatan gave in to his daughter's appeal, and Captain Smith was released. Now, I should mention that many historians have questioned whether Pocahontas really saved Smith. The incident came, they believe, from his imagination. In any event, when Smith returned to Jamestown, he found that starvation and illness had taken an even more terrible toll. Only 38 settlers remained alive. Fortunately, Captain Newport finally returned with supplies in January 1608. He also brought new colonists. Meanwhile, periodic attacks staged by both natives and colonists continued, and once again, food became scarce. John Ratcliffe was accused of secretly taking food from the storehouse and was forced to resign. John Smith was chosen to take Ratcliffe's place. Under Smith's command, the settlement was revived during the next year. The colonists built 20 cabins, cleared 40 acres of farmland, re-roofed the church, and constructed a new fort. Captain Smith famously said,
"He who will not work shall not eat."
About a year after Smith became Jamestown's leader, 300 men, women, and children arrived from England. It was late summer 1609. In order to find a place for them to stay, Smith went looking for and found what he thought was a suitable site. On the way back to Jamestown, tragedy struck. A cinder from someone's pipe flew onto Smith's partially opened gunpowder bag, and the powder inside exploded. He was gravely injured and returned to England.
Gosh, Mr. Beanbody, it seems as if Captain Smith was a real hero.
Well, Lily, in many ways he was, but he wasn't perfect. For instance, many people feel that at times he was much too brutal and dishonest when dealing with the natives. Anyway, with Smith out of the picture, Chief Powhatan saw his chance to defeat the colonists for good. He decided to starve them. He instructed his tribes to refuse all the settlers' offers to trade. The chief knew that the colonists would find it difficult to survive without the Indians' food. By May 1610, some 240 colonists had perished. Only 60 had survived the winter, which became known as the Starving Time. 2 small ships sailed into Jamestown that May. They carried the survivors of the Sea Venture, the lead ship of a resupply mission. They had been caught in a hurricane and had spent many months in Bermuda. The mission leader, Sir Thomas Gates, was shocked at what he saw. So much so that within 2 weeks, he told Jamestown leaders that the settlement had to be abandoned and that everyone would go north to Newfoundland, where they could gather enough supplies to sail back to England. Shortly after the colonists got underway, another vessel from England came into view. A newly appointed governor on board, Thomas West, better known as Lord Delaware, sent word that everyone should return to Jamestown. The new batch of 150 colonists who came with the governor and the old colonists rebuilt the village. They also strengthened its defenses. Now Jamestown was just about ready to take a big step toward success. What it needed most of all was something to sell in England. But what? John Rolfe, one of the new colonists who arrived with Delaware, came up with an answer: a mild-tasting tobacco native to Bermuda. With Rolfe's new variety, Virginia Company investors were within striking distance of making money.
So that's the story of Jamestown, right, Mr. Beanbody?
Well, not quite, Lily. In 1613, some colonists took Pocahontas hostage. The kidnappers wanted to exchange her for some colonists the natives had taken prisoner, but the exchange never took place. Instead, Pocahontas studied Christianity, accepted it, and was baptized. And in 1614, she married John Rolfe. To encourage more people to come to America, the Virginia Company gave away land that could be used to grow tobacco.
Did the Virginia Company do anything else to bring more settlers to America, Mr. Beanbody?
Oh, yes, indeed, Jeffrey. They changed the way the colony was governed. Instead of a single governor making rules for the settlers, whether they liked them or not, a General Assembly was established in 1619. For the first time in North America, representatives, called burgesses in colonial Virginia, could make laws that would affect the lives of the people they represented.
Gosh, Mr. Beanbody, you were right. Starting a community was much harder in the old days.
That's right, Lily. The colonists who started Jamestown had to spend months crossing the ocean in tiny, cramped ships. Then they had to defend themselves against the natives who didn't want them to take their lands. And they had to fight hunger and disease before they could stand on their own 2 feet to become a model for all the communities that would follow, and in many ways a model for the entire country that would be established some 170 years later. the United States of America.
What were the three things the Virginia Company of London wanted to accomplish with its new colony? The three ships that sailed from London to Virginia in 1606 were the, and the. True or false? The man in charge of the three ships that sailed from London to Virginia was Captain John Smith. How many months did the three ships take to get to North America? The colonists' first settlement was on in the river. Why did President Wingfield decide not to build a large fort at the settlement? The leader of the natives who lived near Jamestown was A. Big Turtle, B. Pocahontas, C. Powhatan. Why was President Radcliffe forced to resign? Jamestown's most important crop was A. Corn, B. Tobacco, C. Wheat. Chief Powhatan lived in the village of